Okay, welcome back to another week of Ghost in the Scene. I'm your host, Gio. I'm back with my co-host, Rob Thomas. This is the only ghost-friendly podcast out there. How are you doing, Rob? How's it going?
Ladies, gents, X's, Y's, do you smell it in the air? That crisp smell? That pumpkin spice? It's almost to the fall time now. We're falling back. And that is we're entering the spookiest season of the year. So everything is heightened. And I'm feeling it. I'm sure you're feeling it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
I think something just tapped me on the shoulder. It's saying, I'm right behind you.
might have been a jack-o'-lantern because this is where pumpkins are coming out of the ground. You know, they're cutting the faces of pumpkins, letting the loved ones see the pulp on the ground. This is a disgusting time where human cruelty is at its highest. And like Rob said, this is a spooky time, but this is our fourth time around this giant rock that we call Earth. So we're used to it by now. And I think what is happening is now they're afraid of us. And the fear of us is now kind of magnetizing, and people are drawn to us, and they're drawn to being afraid of us. So there's nothing to be afraid of. The truth, if you are open to it, is warm and accepting. And we're going to give it to you in a very cool and calm way. We're not going to attack you with the truth. This isn't some kind of, crazy anger session where we're going to yell at you, right? This is going to be a very matter-of-fact episode because the facts are there. We're just going to lay them out. But before we get there, I just want to just have a quick, calm down. How are you? How's your week? I know that things are still quarantined. I know that there's a lot of stuff happening in the world right now. So let's just do a little psychic check. How are your powers? Do you feel, the meditation, is it working? Anything like that has been changing in your life, Rob?
I mean, it's definitely a time of stress. There's a lot of stress. People are on edge, still are. And, it feels like we're starting to be pushed off the edge. And it's caused for a lot of time to just sit back and reflect. I've had to do a lot of charging. I've had so much so I've been sticking my fingers into electric sockets just to feel that spark again. How about you,
Wow.
Gio?
I've been meditating a lot just on animals, and it's the hardest part is finding an animal that is willing to let you sit on them for a few hours. But once you find an animal large enough, you just get on top of there and you sit down, you close your eyes, and you let the universe use the animal as a conduit, right? And then you flow through that. So I've been sitting on my dog, my little dog Nico, and he's been helping me with meditation. He's been really focusing me, and I feel like I've been able to grasp a new sense of being. I don't want to say that I can communicate totally with animals yet. I've only done this a couple days in a row, but I feel like if I do it a little bit more, I'm going to be Dr. Doolittle. And I think I kind of cracked the code as to how Dr. Doolittle did it. I think he just might have been sleeping on animals, on live animals, and their dreams as they sleep seep into your brain. And, like you said, can you smell it? Animals have a lot of smells, and then you kind of get used to that smell and you start to think like an animal. So I've been doing that with my dog. I'm getting closer to being able to speak to him, and we've been getting a lot of work done just in our relationship, repairing it. I had no idea the resentment that my dog had for me. And that's just a quick shout out to everybody. If you have pets and you think that they love you, just because they're dogs and they, lick you and they're happy and stuff, that doesn't mean they like you. And that doesn't mean they don't harbor resentments to you. You could still be a jerk, right? So there's things that you have to apologize to them for that you don't even know you have to apologize. So that's just a quick reminder to everybody. Treat your dogs with more respect, and maybe if you meditated on them, you'd understand that.
That's a great message. I think that we forget that, we can communicate with more than just other humans, and it's important to communicate with the animals out there, the plants, objects, even. I talk to my pencil every single time I write because that's stressful because the pencil can break. It's being worn down.
Hmm.
It is, sacrificing itself so I can draw, pictures and doodles and
These are good pictures of boobs and stuff that he's drawing.
right. I mean, and I draw them big, so that's a lot of pencil lead.
And the respect that you have to have, the relationship between you and your pencil, is something that people don't take seriously. And that's what upsets us the most. And I think we've talked to some people before, and they've really drilled in the idea of respect of the ghost, of the paranormal, of the unknown. And I think that's one thing that we have to remind people of, that, ghosting is not an active combative sport. It is much more of a research based, understanding based sport. And I don't even think we can call it a sport anymore, because there are no winners or losers. I mean, we are winners. I don't want to get anybody wrong on that. Rob and I are winners, but we're not playing a game. This is our life. So let's get into some big happening in the world, some current events. Like I said, the quarantine is still happening. There's plenty of political stuff that is boiling, right? We had the conventions just pass. I don't really want to talk about those things just because it's speech upon speech. A speech is a spell, and is literally, we could go over each speech, but it'd be like going over a million spells. It's just too much. And frankly, if we were to repeat all of that, I think we would have a detriment to your ears. So let's get into something that is a little bit more in our lane, because we love to investigate, we love to dig for the facts, and we did some heavy digging. So, Rob, you were talking about extinctions, and this is something that really struck a chord with me. So, if you wanted to share that with the listeners, and we can get started on this conversation.
Definitely. I mean, I've been going at this topic with pickaxe, shovel, digging deep into the ground. And the deeper you go, you're going to come up with more and more bones of animals that don't exist anymore. This is an entire species that are now ghosts. They're ghosts only. And, you know, this goes back obviously to dinosaurs are probably some of the most well known. Not platypus. I think they're still around. I just
Just
don't understand what they are.
just to quickly, I don't think many listeners know, what is a dinosaur?
Right, right. I am making assumptions here. A dinosaur, just like think of like a lizard, but gigantic and with pointy teeth and little arms. And it's like they are often described as buses. They're like the original buses.
So
So
they're like,
instead of getting in into a little like a big bus, paying fare, you get on a brontosaurus, and that's gonna shuttle you around back and forth.
so Uber and Lyft should be called Uberosaurus and Lyftosaurus.
I mean, back in the day, yeah, that's what they'd be known
That's
as.
what they would have been called. Okay, I just wanted everybody to be on the same page. When we talk about dinosaurs, we're talking about the old way of public transportation, the way that people back in the days, in the 1500s or so, used to get around before they had cars. Okay, so as you dig, you find the bones and the tires and the gears of all these dinosaurs in the dirt. And like you said, they don't exist anymore. They are an image of the past, ghosts, literally. And I think you were kind of alluding to the fact that it's happening again, or it's always happening?
Oh, it's a trajectory, right? And I'm glad that we spoke of it in the terms of public service because, the systems that we used in the ancient past, like the 1500s, are changed and they're no longer used today. They too are extinct. But it's harder to find ideas dug in the ground. They're a lot harder to find. You need to have a special divining rod. They're usually like in rocks, in amber,
Hmm.
um, less teeth. So, and we're seeing the process over again. That means that everything that we are experiencing today is one day going to be considered extinct. We're like in the pre stages of being a ghost, not just ourselves, but our society. And I think
Whoa.
we've all been hearing in the news a lot, specifically about the service of the postal office, delivering mail, delivering messages to each other, is going the way of the dinosaurs.
Now, wait a minute. The post office, they're the people that are responsible for bringing me my bills. So why not let them go extinct? If there was no post office, I wouldn't have to pay any of my bills.
I mean, that's true, but also consider this like, they also control the weather, right? Rain, sleet, snow. They don't mess around with that. They're the ones that are actually controlling all the weather. Like, you don't see anyone else out in the rain or
Oh my
sleet
God.
or
Yeah.
snow.
They're the original and maybe even what we would call modern shamans, rain dancers.
Hmm.
And okay, so now I understand why we need the post office. I know being selfish and not wanting to pay your bills is not reason enough to cancel the weather. I think we need to keep the weather around for a little while longer. So it's going extinct, and I think we've kind of talked about how, this is a continual circular thing. It's gone extinct before, no?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, this is only the most recent version of the post office. When you think about our boys in blue, boys and girls, girls and X's in blue, um, the postal workers, walking on foot, grabbing in their bag. That is the modern version of the older version, which was ponies. There's a bunch of you get your mail from a pony. It would run across, and you reach into their sack. And before that, there were carrier pigeons. None of
Wow.
this exists anymore. You get little birds. Like we go on social media, you send tweets. Little birdies are now on the internet, but they used to fly across the sky and drop little short little messages. Most of them were profane and ugly. They just drop down and say "fuck you."
Right. And now it's just poop. Instead of notes, they're just sending poop to us instead. And before when we gave them an opportunity to work, it's science. Pigeons did not poop. They could not poop, right? All of the expenditure of their calories was given to the male. And since then, the reason why you get poop on you is because they're striking, they're angry, they don't get to work anymore. And that their ancestors, the actual carrier pigeons, were extinguished like flames in the night. C'est la vie, right? And so the ponies were made into hamburgers. The pigeons were, sent into the internet in a meat grinder. And now they're tweets. And so what's going to happen to these poor people who are carrying our mail? Sometimes our bills, but other times it could be spells. Other times it could be checks. That's money. There's money in the mail. So, where am I going to get my birthday cards from anymore?
It's a big question, and sometimes you get coupons. You can get magazines, medicine
Oh my
as
God.
well. So,
Drugs.
right.
How am I going to do drugs without the post office? I mean, there's plenty of things, plenty of ways you can do drugs. Yes, granted. But the post office is the easiest way. And I think we need to make doing drugs easier for people. I think that's a simple equation there. You want people to be happy, you give them drugs through the mail.
Right. I mean, and also, like, how are we going to be sending ransom notes to people anymore?
Yeah, how are they going to
Right?
know who's kidnapped?
If I cut off someone's ear and send it in the mail to their loved ones, there's no mail. Like, how am I supposed to get it there?
We're looking at a dystopian world where you can't even ransom anymore. You can't even get drugs through the mail, and there's going to be tornadoes and earthquakes every day of the week because they don't have control over the weather anymore. So who's responsible for all of this? We looked into that. We're Pulitzer Prize future. We've seen the future, and we win Pulitzers, both of us.
Multiple.
Yeah, and there's a couple times where I even said no. I turned him down, and that's a boss move. Kudos to me in the future. You too, Rob. So we got our Pulitzers because of what we found out. Louis DeJoy is the new Postmaster General, which means he commands the army of the post office. And Louis DeJoy has a lot of things to answer to. A couple things being the fact that he used to own and be the CEO of a company called New Breed. New Breed Logistics. When I say New Breed, what does that evoke in your mind, Rob?
I mean, it's everything that we're talking about before. We're talking about new breeds of creatures delivering mail. Pigeons, horses, people.
Exactly. So, DeJoy, of joy, right? This guy, pretending to be Mr. Smiley, Mr. Happy, heads the company New Breed, marries a woman who is the ambassador to Estonia during the Bush years, which means that she was working with Estonian manufacturers, bioinformatics, geneticists, right? That's what ambassadors usually do. And this was all the way back in 2004. Louis DeJoy, being the head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation called New Breed, who knows what they do? I mean, you can only guess because they don't release public records. He's giving money left and right to anybody who he thinks is going to be in charge. He gave $1 million to Donald Trump, quote unquote, whoever Donald Trump was at the time. He gave money to him, her, or anybody. And now he's the head of an army, of the post office. And what happens in February? Well, his wife now is set to become the ambassador to Canada. So now she takes all of her Estonian information, all of her geneticist friends, goes to Canada, and is now working with everybody to the north of us. So we looked into it, and we found a few scary things that I think is worth telling people. Because when they say new breed, they literally mean new breed, something that's never existed before. They are trying to create. And I think the easiest way is to just rip the Band-Aid off, Rob. I think we just got to say it. They're trying to create human wrestler animal hybrids.
I mean, just let that sink in, everyone. All right?
Yes. Think about it, okay? I looked up Canada, new breed. And what did I find? The first article. That there was a trade, ECW, right? The Empire Wrestling Federation. They sold off a bunch of their wrestlers, what they call a stable of wrestlers. We talked about ponies earlier. Where do they sleep? In stables, right? Or on the floor.
Clue number one.
And they might be sleeping on hay, but they're in stables at some point of the day. I'm not sure when. I don't know much about ponies. Since they're extinct, I don't think it matters. But they had a stable of wrestlers that they called the New Breed. I'm talking about Elijah Burke, Marcus Corvon, Matt Stryker, Kevin Thorne, Ariel, and CM Punk. These are the people. February 2007. What did I say in February? Right? February was the year 13 years ago. Just think about the numbers here, right? And of course, they disbanded in June, which is 6. This is everything to say that all points lead to here, to the New Breed. And what does that mean? It means that they're trying to create a new army of hybrid animals, and that they're using the post office as the first point of contact for this new army.
Right, and if you, in case you didn't need proof enough, Louis DeJoy took command of the post office in June. So, what more needs to be said here? It's very clear that they were experimenting on these wrestlers for the purpose of switching out the old post office and injecting the next wave of mail delivery, mail by hybrid wrestler. You're gonna have to think about it. You're gonna have to wrestle for your drugs.
Yeah.
And for your ransom notes.
There's going to be a ring around your little mailbox, and you won't be able to get to it because there's going to be a tag team waiting for you and giving you a double suplex. And there's going to be people literally, what do you call it, clotheslining you when you're running to pay for your DMV, tickets. So you're going to go to court. There's going to, and this is the other thing, okay? We didn't even talk about how Steve Bannon was apprehended by the post office, by literal army guards of the post office. What they didn't say was it was people in the post office, they were completely covered. They had none of their skin showing. And the reason being, this might have been a pilot test to see if the New Breed was able to apprehend one of the world's most dangerous criminals, Steve Bannon. So, they call him Bannon the Cannon. Literally, he has a cannon with him at all times. And they were able to apprehend him through, Stone Cold Stunners, CM Punk Slammers, all kinds of stuff. But this is what we're looking at, a future where you're going to have to wrestle and get in a walls of Jericho just in order to pay for, the yearly taxes. And we have Mr. DeJoy to thank for that.
Almost speechless, because this investigation work that we've done, Gio, is just so important. And there's no stopping us at this point to unmasking the truth. And I want to thank your hard work as well, and for all the Pulitzers that we're going to win. It's not why we do it, but it is nice to have the recognition of our peers.
That's very true. And if you thought that we stopped there, we did. But we're not the only ones doing investigations. So we want to bring on our next guest. This guest this week did an amazing job. And when I tell you that it did not fit more perfectly with what we just talked about, it is incredible. What he found, I mean, I'll let him speak for himself, but Mr. A came back to the show and he told us some groundbreaking new evidence, some investigations. He did undercover investigations. So let's kick it to our conversation with Mr. A. Before we do that, Rob, do you want to talk about anything regarding this conversation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of earth-shattering things. I mean, I advocated for, with my Pulitzers, I'm now on the board of Pulitzer and advocating Mr. A to get his own, because this is really important work. And it's not just the investigation of our institutions, but it's also investigations into ourselves. He gives a lot of great information about self-care routines that I think is all very important right now. To not only does Mr. A understand and see the macro, he's very intimately aware of the micro, of the self, and how the two interact. So this is a great interview. Pulitzer winning, I'm calling it now, stuff. So
All right, and since
enjoy.
you're on the board, I'm sure that'll get up there, and he'll be at least nominated. So enjoy the conversation. We'll see you in a little while. Okay, we are here with a very mysterious guest. Mr. A is back with us in the scene, a veteran of Ghost in the Scene guests, but we've brought him into the future, into the 100s along with us. Mr. A, how are you?
Hi, Gio, Rob. Thank you so much for having me back in Ghost in the Scene. I'm doing as well as can be expected, to be honest, but hanging in there.
Mr. A, how are you staying safe nowadays? Because these feel like very unsafe times, and we're so glad to see you and to know that you've made it this far, basically right underneath the government's nose. So what are your tricks? Like, what sort of wisdom can you pass on to our listeners?
Well, I just I avoid carbs a lot, and before this whole pandemic thing started, I was already wearing masks. Probably about 3 years before it started, I was wearing masks, which really helped.
You were doing the clown masks, right? And you would stand out in public a few years ago.
That was me, yeah. I was in a few of those videos. You couldn't tell it was me because I had the mask on, but.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. The no carb thing, that's a Diane Keaton celebrity diet, right? Like the Diane Keaton diet.
Yes, that's exactly where I got it from. I actually met Di, as she prefers to be called. I met her on, well, this is going back to my past years of research, but I met her on CNN when Wolf Blitzer, the formerly named Wolf Blitzer, interviewed her, and that's when she told me about carbs and keto, and it's there's been a lot of close calls, I'll just say, and if it wasn't for Di, I think I'd probably be dead by now.
Wow, if it wasn't for Di, you would be dead. That's beautifully said. So you kind of gave away a little bit of what you've been up to, working under the nose of big government, Uncle Sam, right in his mustache, basically.
Yeah.
So how has it been living in the mustache of Uncle Sam?
Very bristly.
Mm.
Very bristly. I've had to buy at least 5 combs, which I always keep on me. And well, I don't know if you want me to talk about it now, but I've sort of been researching some new things, which maybe.
Please, yeah,
Yes,
of course.
of
Yes.
course. I mean, if you feel like it's safe, I mean, we totally understand too. Excuse me. You see, already, I feel like my voice is spiritually being attacked because we might want to, there's some forces out there. This is a public channel, Mr. A, as we all know. So we want to make sure your safety is first and foremost. Carbs are great, but it's some carbs. You can't stop. Bullet holes, right?
Yeah, carbs can't stop curses.
That's right. Right.
Actually, you're 100% right. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my mask right now.
Perfect. Oh, yes. And then real quick, when it comes to masks, do you have the inner lining? Is it blessed by the Pope, like we usually suggest? You do that too?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, good. So there is a consensus when it comes to mask safety, people, and I know a lot of people talk about the safety of masks. You have to get it blessed by the Pope for 100% safety. You'll get 99 point, I'm not sure. You want 100, go to the
Mhm.
Papa, right?
And I actually just sent via, well, I'll just reveal it now, via FedEx. I just sent a box of masks to the Vatican and had the Pope bless them there.
Wow,
And
paying that extra.
yeah, and he sent them back to me blessed, and you know that was it. Easy.
That's amazing. That's a lot of stamps to lick, Mr. A.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that I was on keto because my stamina was pretty good.
That's really good for licking envelopes and licking stamps.
Mhm.
The Diane Keaton diet. So this is also a good opportunity to give your new evidence. We are your peers. This is an official peer review. And this is a beautiful segment that we're starting where since we're all scientists here, we might as well, whatever you say now is going to be peer reviewed. So you can say with the confidence of your statements, yeah, I've had this peer reviewed.
Mhm.
So yeah, you already kind of gave it away, but you were undercover, right?
Yeah.
Just like Upton Sinclair, right? Just like the Ghostbusters in Ghostbusters 2 when they're under the city of New York.
Just like Princess Diaries in the beginning, when Anne Hathaway was
Just
not
hanging
as
out,
attractive.
right? Bushy browed, and you were spending, uh, I'm not sure how many hours, but a certain amount of X amount of hours in the belly of the beast.
I was, yes. So for all the listeners who have not been keeping up with my WordPress blog, I, for some time, was undercover, working undercover for the government entity Federal Express. Now, a lot of people don't know this because when they think of Federal Express, they just think of FedEx, FedEx. But they don't. They just think it's just some company that some guy owns. But it's actually Fed is short for federal. Okay, and Express is express. So
Express what?
exactly, exactly. Which is one of the reasons why I had to go undercover, because when I called them up, they didn't want to tell me. The person on the phone did not want to tell me.
Wow, shocking. So I I think you wrote this down in of course your dissertation, your expose,
Hmm.
but just kind of give a brief overview of some of the atrocities that you witnessed, the paranormal atrocities and otherwise.
Hmm. Well, I mean, to begin, I saw countless. Oh, wait.
All right. I think I just saw a light come through my house as well. So I they be let's I want to move forward, right?
Of
This is
course.
obviously we can't be intimidated by. I mean, this is Federal Express. I mean, they're fast, right?
Mhm.
I mean, they're
Right.
listening to this episode before it even airs.
Right. This episode won't come out for weeks, and they're literally listening right now. So just be careful what you say. Of course, don't incriminate yourself. We haven't given away your name, so you have that shield, and you know that we can't be bought. So
Of
just
course.
uh, this is a safe place, right? This is your safe space.
Mhm.
Let's just be careful, and let's hope that no helicopters come busting in.
Okay. Okay. Well, I am ready to talk about this finally,
Mm-hmm.
and just we need to get the truth out there. the truth is that Federal Express is haunted by countless numbers of ghosts and
Whoa.
is in fact run, operated, managed, and funded by ghosts.
Wow.
Wow. It's the haunted version of the Postal Service.
Mhm.
Now, we could look at this a couple different ways, depending on what you saw, right? Um, if if you saw some, some accidents, if you saw some negligence, totally understandable that you have to call it out, right? But this
Mhm.
is something that I was trying to explain to Rob earlier. Their culture, the ghost culture, is just so much more violent, but not in a intentional violent way. They're violent in a frustrated way, because they don't know how to use their powers, and they don't know how to interact with the mortal world anymore. So, what did you see that made you take a step back, during your time in FedEx?
Sure. Well, it was what I didn't see. I
Oh,
didn't see a single human soul working there in the entire time I was undercover.
wow.
And yet, somehow, my masks got to the Pope and got back.
Interesting. Do you have is there a way for you to test that these are the same masks that you sent?
Uh, yes. Sometimes I actually put them up to my ear to hear His
Yes,
holiness,
yes.
His breath caressing my ear.
It's like the ocean. The
Yeah,
Pope's breath is just like the ocean.
yeah. There
Wow,
it is. There it is. There it is.
that's
So
real.
these have been blessed by the Pope himself via Federal Express. Yet
And
not a single human hand touched them in transit.
and you said human soul, and I
Mhm.
wonder, could it be a kind of animal ghost scenario where you have a bunch of monkey ghosts running amok at the Federal Express,
Mhm.
and maybe this is a branch of government that is used to have a place for monkey ghosts. I'm not sure. That's complete speculation. That's part of the peer review, of course,
Mhm.
the speculation part.
Yeah.
But it just makes it's curious that as an empath, you would absolutely see human souls if there were human souls around.
Mhm.
So this could be many things. Rob, what do you think?
I mean, I was I think you must have seen me because the smoke just flying up from my desk from the numbers that I was crunching this whole time. Because when I've been hearing all this, and I'm sure all you other math heads are just furiously crunching away the numbers. FedEx, right? Fed, FED,
X.
and this X. X is a very strong symbol. It's also the 24th letter of the alphabet. 2 plus 4 is 6, right? And then you got Fed, which are also the 6th, 5th, and 4th sequentially going down.
Mm-hmm.
Order of 3.
Three, right there.
Add them up, you get 16. That's another 6.
That's 1 6.
So
I
where's the third? I mean, you can see it, the 3 letters of the Fed. 2 total words, FedEx.
mm-hmm.
2 divided by 3.6, infinite.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy to see that, everybody. So, math heads, your ears are burning, and monkey heads, your ears are burning, and so how did you get out of there?
Yeah, great question. And some days I look in the mirror and I ask myself the same thing. Going back to your hypothesis, Gio, of monkeys,
Mm-hmm.
I did see one time a banana peel on the ground in the warehouse where I was undercover.
What? Okay.
Right.
That's one tally on the monkey scenario, everybody. There could, there's many other chances to disprove me. But for now, I think we're running with the monkey scenario. Wow.
So,
Eaten banana, hopefully.
yes, 100% eaten. There was nothing left but the peel.
Classic
That's
monkey business.
monkey business, and it's very dangerous as well. Like, what would happen if someone to slip on that banana peel? They could also hit their head, die, and become a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they're a monkey handler, and they didn't even have a chance to go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So that's incredible, right? The federal government is funding an entire zoo full of monkeys, dead monkeys, that are sending masks to the Pope himself to get blessed. Because like you said, the work gets done, right? They somehow figure it out.
Yep. It day in, day out. Their little monkey paws are
Wow.
moving those packages.
Wow.
Incredible.
So monkey business is literally business at FedEx. That's how they do it there. Incredible. So that expose is going to be Pulitzer. It's going to be Nobel. It's going to be on Vanity Fair, right? We're the ones that you're breaking the story here, and I'm glad we're the first avenue that you chose to release this information on. This isn't going to be the last time that the world hears this story.
No, of course. And actually, to set the record straight, Gio, most of this research can be found on my WordPress blog. In fact, my 321-page dissertation can be found on there, as well as my GeoCities blog.
Yes. And of course, you guys will be able to find that on the episode description. So we will link to those documents. This is all fact-checked stuff. The Pope has time to read that as well. He's a very busy man, but he finds time for Mr. A. So, Mr. A, coming out of that, are there any other kind of investigations, undercover experiments that you are looking forward to? So something that is on your plate that you want to devour?
Yes, there is, as a matter of fact. In concurrently with my investigation at Federal Express, I was also seeking data for my investigation regarding a ghost of a time ghost.
Whoa.
Specifically, the time.
Ghost.
Mhm. The time ghost.
Can you explain that further? Sorry, yes.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So the time ghosts, you see, there are ghosts that control certain periods of time.
Right. And yeah, this is the perfect moment, guys, to introduce our guest ghost host. It's so serendipitous that you actually started talking about time, because we got an old friend of yours on the pod themselves, the spirit of the 1990s. Hear that clapping? That's for you. Don't worry if you get slime. It's just like the Nickelodeon slime, okay, Mr. A?
Oh my God! I can't believe you have them here.
I mean, doesn't it just, you can smell the Pizza Hut in the air. Little Caesars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm smelling it from here. The ghost of 1990s brand Pizza Hut.
So the 1990s, 90s, if we want to be friends, right? Let's call them 90s from now on. So 90s, what you been up to these last 20 years? Wow. It's a lot of money they lost.
Incredible.
The big gamble. So, I know this is the first time you've had a chance to talk with the spirit of the 90s in a long time. Is there anything you remember fondly about the 90s that the spirit could bring to you? Channel through itself.
I want to know, and this has been on my research docket for probably about 12 years now. Did the ghost of Teen Spirit die in the year 2000? Did it die because of Y2K?
Wow.
Ooh.
You went right for the heart, Mr. A, on that one.
I mean, this is one of the questions of our lifetime. This is defining, and we could get some empirical truths tonight.
This can be some big news. If the spirit is willing, if the 90s is willing to say whether or not what happened that fateful night on Y2K, it smells like it will. It smells like you said, the spirit of the 90s kind of smells like Teen Spirit, Mr. A. And let's just kind of parse the lyrics to that to understand maybe the spirit of the 90s was murdered that night.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll let the spirit channel itself through this smells like Teen Spirit, and we will get the definitive proof.
I never heard the song like that, but I can't unhear it now.
Wow. Y2K did it to me. I think it was something like that. It's dangerous, he said. So I think you got your answer, Mr. A.
I mean, the math is right there. I'm surprised I didn't see it earlier, but there it is.
The numbers don't lie.
Wow. It seems that the spirit has brought a little gift bag for all of us. You see there?
Oh.
Look at that.
Oh, wow. Oh.
See that? It showed up right there.
Oh.
There's some cards. Looks like some Pokemon cards.
It brought me some eye cleaning cloths.
Eye cleaning cloths.
Nice.
Eyeglass.
The microfiber made popular in the 90s. A can of Coca-Cola, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Some Pogs.
I got some Hot Wheels in mine.
I got some Laffy Taffy, a bottle of Diet Snapple.
It brought me a VHS copy of Jerry Maguire.
Look at that. So you don't feel like you have to bring gifts for everybody. Guests, you don't have to do that, but it's nice when it happens. Now, the idea that this spontaneously came to us is a little scary. It's a little frightening. I didn't know that the ghosts of the 90s had that much power. They could materialize objects literally from the 90s. And I think that's what you were saying when you were saying you were investigating a time ghost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
A literal ghost of time.
These ghosts have powers beyond the normal scope of regular non-time ghosts. These powers are strange and mysterious, and they creep into our everyday lives. I mean, I see ghosts of the 90s all the time on my Instagram feed, for example. And absolutely. And these poor, my friends, the people who I'm friends with on Instagram, I don't see them wearing masks blessed by the Pope. I don't see them wearing their eyeglasses or, have their shirts covering their neck and, protecting them from harm and evil. These ghosts of the 90s are even creeping into their clothes, influencing their clothes. They're wearing overalls again and jelly bracelets. These things are haunting, constantly haunting them. And
Wow. You're talking full on possession.
I am.
And how far in your research, like, do you know, you know, have you figured out any sort of intent from the 90s? I mean, we have the 90s with us. We can ask, but I'm just curious what your research has pointed to.
Mhm.
And
Well,
then no offense to the 90s, of course, whatever Mr. A says, no offense to you.
oh yeah. I don't mean any sort of harm. I'm just reporting what I have found so far.
Mhm.
And to answer your question, Rob, my research, it's been a little slow going, only because when it comes to time ghosts and researching them, you want to make sure that you get the full story or the full context as you're researching them. So for that reason, I had to start actually researching, starting at the beginning of time,
Wow.
and
Whoa.
make my way to the 1990s. And right now, I'm probably I'm probably at the year negative 3 million BCE. So
So it's gonna take a couple of million years to figure this problem out. Which is why I think having the scene, everybody here listening, we literally have a multiverse at our disposal, Mr. A. So that's billions upon times infinity of people listening. So if we could harness their power, we could maybe cut a couple million years off, and you could be in the 1600s.
I'd love to do that. Absolutely, I would love that kind of help in my research. So, getting maybe the street team as research assistants. They can put their name on the dissertation even when I'm finished with the research.
Right. I mean, we can ask. There are literally, like I said, trillions of listeners, both ghost, alive, otherwise. So if they're available, we will make a petition to help you with this.
I mean,
This is
this
gonna.
isn't no small feat either. So I think this is definitely a calling call for all of our listeners out there to be involved, because we're not just talking about the entirety of time as we know it here on Earth Vista. We're talking about the history of the multiverse.
Right. Right. That's all time, not just one time. Right.
Right.
It's every time.
And you got Earth Vista, Earth 95, Earth ME. The list goes on and on.
Quantum.
Earth XP.
Mm-hmm.
Too many to count.
It's impossible.
And literally, we could have another round of people helping to count the Earths after we're done with helping you and your dissertation. So, this is the start of crowdfunding peer-reviewed science, right? This is the time to kickstart our, endeavors using the scene, using our new platforms, because we are going to have platforms up the wazoo. And I think this is a perfect time to announce that Mr. A, you will be a columnist on our monthly, and this is something that we've been trying so hard to do, to distill the information that we give out on our podcast into the written form. We have dedicated to you once a month. We will be releasing a monthly newsletter that really details what's happening in the world right now. And Mr. A will have a column. You'll be hearing from Mr. A, and the truth will be told.
Yes. It will be told 250 words or less at a time.
Beautiful. I mean, that's all you need to say to tell the truth, really.
Yeah.
Hey, if it's good enough for all the people on Twitter, then
Exactly. And anything else is, you're trying too hard, or you're making up words. I see a lot of articles, and people don't even get to the end of the article. It's just gibberish they type at the end of the article to get extra characters in. there's like 50 or so more words that are illegible. Basically, there's spells. They're at the end of these articles because they want to fill in some spots. It's shameful. They should give those to pizza ads. They should give those to Revlon and to, Tresemme ads, hair care. I mean, there's plenty of other people that could use that space.
And that's why we're devoting this space and having on columnists like Mr. A that are going to tell you the truth. They're not going to step around. They're not going to try to spell you unless that spell is the cold, hard truth.
Right. And hopefully you guys are all used to that spell because you are fans of this show. I want to thank Mr. A. Your voice is so important right now in a world full of chaos and fake news. You got you working for Wolf Blitzer, coming from the den of the wolf, going into the Federal Express, a monkey pit, right? A ghost monkey pit. And here you are, to hell and back. Thank you, Mr. A, for being a part of the scene. Thank you for, giving your time to us.
Thank you, Gio and Rob, for giving a platform to the truth. Not a lot of places, not a lot of sources of truth are out there nowadays. And I just want to say, namaste. I hope you're safe.
Wow, I felt that in my heart. That felt so good. Thank you. I wish I could do the same, but I need to practice. Thank you, Mr. A. We will see you again, and we look forward to listening and hearing your words in ink.
All right,
take care.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right. What an interview, Rob. Monkeys working for the Federal Express. Ghost monkeys, nonetheless. Could you imagine?
I mean, it's just speaks to everything that we've been talking about. It is the wrestler horses that are going to be running the post office. We got monkeys in FedEx. I don't even want to know who's at UPS. I mean, it also makes me think of, we haven't seen our friend, the horse, Mark the Horse Luffler, in some time. I'm wondering if I'm going to have to wrestle him for my mail now.
Exactly. I mean, this is the future that we're looking at, is a monkey horse fueled world where people no longer have an option whether or not they want to fight for their mail or not. So, I just want to warn everybody, DeJoy seems like a very joyful name. It is not a joyful future we're looking at. So thank you, Mr. A, for all of your insight. And we have with us to cap the episode, we wanted to kind of lighten your guys' day. We do this research, and sometimes we find things that really are kind of, I would say, time capsules into bygone eras. And what we found was an unedited script, an unedited version, one of the first drafts of The Devil Wears Prada. So this is a...
Yeah, go ahead, Gio.
I just want to say this is a new segment we're gonna start doing because we found a whole treasure trove of unedited scripts. So we're going to be doing dramatic rereadings just to show what the writer intended to say before the studios, threw in all of their anti-ghost, anti-paranormal propaganda and try to clean up the script. So go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I wanted to say too, like, this is a literal treasure trove. There's no wordplay about this. Hollywood takes their old scripts and puts them into treasure chests and buries them in the desert of California. And we found the map and saw the big red X on the ground. We dug it up.
Many times you go to a In-N-Out burger and you see those palm trees with the X. You can usually find a bunch of scripts there if you dig. But you got to be quick because they don't like that. They want you ordering hamburgers. They don't want you digging up, ancient treasure chests. So This is the kind of thing that only the most professional people can do, people who can dig a hole in 5 minutes or less. If you don't have that ability, that stamina, don't even try it. So Rob and I had to go out to the desert In-N-Out location and find this treasure trove, but I'm sure there's plenty more out there. So without further ado, I know you guys have had a chance to look at the script yourselves, but we're going to do a rereading of this because I think it's very important to show just how it was said, how they intended to say it. So Rob will be doing the voice of Miranda, and I will be the voice of Andy, and I'll be doing some of the other directions on the script. So let's start.
Right. I mean, and right before we do, I mean, obviously, Devil Wears Prada. Like, was supposed to be like one the seminal paranormal films of our time, and sadly, it was stripped from a lot of what was intended to be on screen. It's a fantastic text, nonetheless. I mean, its power is evident when you watch it, but it could have been so much more, and we just want to give you all a taste of that.
Right. So let's set the scene. If you guys have seen The Devil Wears Prada, there is a moment in the movie where Anne Hathaway's character must prove to her boss that she is worthy. And the way that she does it, it's kind of like the Mr. Miyagi Karate Kid, where she just makes her do all kinds of menial tasks, just these bone-breaking tasks. And one of them is to procure a copy of, in what they sanitized, a copy of Harry Potter. Now, we're going to read the scene the way that the writer intended. So, interior, runway, hallway. The tray with Miranda's witch's brew on it. We follow it down the hall and see it being set on Miranda's desk. Beside it lands, boom, an envelope. Widened out to sea. Interior runway. Miranda's office, day. Miranda looking at the envelope. And then we see Andy. She stands there, quiet, calm, ready to die. And if Miranda is amazed by what Andy did, she doesn't show it. Her magic ability is staggering. She opens the envelope and looks in.
One copy? What are my twins supposed to do with that? Share?
Actually, I made 2 copies and had them color copied, blessed by the Pope, and bound in holy leather so they wouldn't look like plain spell books. She smiles. Miranda nods, but still won't concede the point.
And where exactly are those fabulous copies? I don't see them anywhere.
Andy conjures a vision cloud. In the front row, we see 2 girls in matching outfits with 2 matching spellbook manuscripts. The twins with their undead nanny beside them. Interior runway, Miranda's office, day. Andy smiles at Miranda, her faith in the dark arts restored. Andy, brightly, anything else I can do for you? Would you like a vial of my blood? External, Elias Clark Day. Andy walks out. The ghosts stream in and out of the building. Andy raises her arms in prayer and does a victory dance. Rain pours down and lightning strikes a nearby man, talking on his cell phone. People stare as she laughs. It doesn't bother her. End scene.
Wow.
Wow.
I have chills.
The power. They gave her so much power in the first script, and they took it away from her in the movie. And it's like, if you see the movie The Devil Wears Prada, you can tell that she goes from being like a light witch to a dark witch near the end. And then she kind of makes the decision to stay as a light witch, right?
But perhaps a gray witch.
Right. What I'm seeing is way more nuance. The actual original draft just has so much more nuance just in the way that she is tooling with vials of blood and conjuring bolts of lightning. I mean, this is a woman literally with ambition. And I think that's what they robbed her of in the sanitized version. They took away Andy's ambition to become one of the most powerful magic users in the known universe. And I think we all paid for it, you know?
Right. I mean, in the version that we get, it doesn't make a lot of sense. They say she wants to be a quote unquote writer, right? And she ends up being an assistant to a magazine editor, which is a very different skill set. You know, I don't see her write a single word
No.
in the film. So what you lose is it's more of like a sorcerer's apprentice, right? She
Right.
wants to be a witch, so she joins the head witch to learn her powers and her secrets.
But in the sanitized version, we have to figure out what we're going to call these, the versions that Hollywood puts out, because we have to give them a title that's not just sanitized, because they do more than clean it up. Sometimes they ruin it, right? So we'll figure out what to call it, but for now we'll call it the bungled version, because they bungled this one. So in the bungled version of Devil Wears Prada, you have Andy just doing simple things like getting her coffee and getting her food. In the original screenplay, she's getting human sacrifices. She is getting blood from ancient Mesopotamia. She's getting spell books. This is somebody who just has so much more capability, and taking that away changes the entire story, the entire tone. And I think Anne Hathaway spending 7 months in the deep hills with shamans doing ayahuasca every day, and then she goes and finds out that this is the movie that they made, I think is it's a testament to her ability, but also the fact that they didn't let her do what she trained for. So Anne Hathaway, you are officially welcome onto this show to tell your side of the story, because I know there's probably more drafts where you were given, notes that probably made you just, shake your head in disbelief. And I believe you. I think we believe you at Ghost in the Sea.
Right, and we'd love to hear that perspective of how much pushback. You know, Hollywood gives you their version, but it's still such a powerful movie. I would want to hear. We'd love to hear about, what more could have been taken away, what was fought to be kept in. Just the I don't know what's wrong with me today, but I'm like losing my words, because this is what Hollywood is doing. It's taking the words right out from our mouths.
Literally censoring you
digging a
as
bit
you're
ditch.
speaking. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of worried that our system today might be a little weakened, a little compromised, because this usually doesn't happen, and I apologize to our listeners, because we're out here to tell the truth, and if we're being stifled, that's all of our loss.
Right. And it's not our fault. You have to remember that we have a million enemies out there, and they're all trying to get us. So just the fact that we were able to get that screenplay and just that little section out to the world, I think is huge. And I'm glad that we got to do that. And we're going to keep on doing that. We got plenty of more scripts. Turner and Hooch is more like Turner and a Ghost. Literally that's what we're going to call it. So we'll talk about all of these different movies, these different screenplays. Guys, girls, gals, X's, Y's, everybody take care this week, because we know that things are coming a million miles an hour, and we want you guys to be safe and be ready, because next week we're going to hit you so hard. It's going to be like a Mack truck with just full of truth and news. So, guys, stay in the scene.
Keep your eyes on the screen. It's hard to keep looking. It feels like our eyeballs are burning out of our heads, but after all this, if you do the right pairs, you will have newer eyeballs that will see more clearly after the old ones melt out. So keep that in mind. It's like, listening to this show is like LASIK surgery through your ears, and that will then shoot into your eyes, giving you more clear vision.
And that is a promise that you can take to the bank. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care. We love you.